despite my great love of musicals, I had never seen Hello, Dolly. I think it just got to the point where it was, so successful and so loved that I kind of kept putting off watching it in case I was disappointed. I was not disappointed. It's currently on Disney Plus, and I'm really glad I watched it. A little bit nervous. It was 2.5 hours long. I thought, well, if this doesn't capture my mind, then it might drag a bit. But honestly, it was really great fun. This was released in 1969, directed by Gene Kelly, and stars the fabulous Barbra Streisand as Dolly. And there was only one negative thing I have to say about this, so I'll just get this out of the way. And it's not really a negative because it didn't loosen my enjoyment, but it's not something I've seen anybody else mention. And I just feel like the plot's a little bit scattered, and there are a lot of things that are not explored enough. Some of these things I can't really go into too much detail about without spoiling it. But for example, Dolly and her attitudes towards Horace Vandergelder, I think that's not explored enough. But, for the most part, while there are little things that are not perfect with the narrative, it's thoroughly enjoyable. I'll read the description from IMDb, but it doesn't really go into too much detail, so I'll talk a bit around it, but without giving any spoilers. And this says, Matchmaker Dolly Levi travels to Yonkers to find a partner for half-a-millionaire Horace Vandergelder, convincing his niece, his niece's intended, and his 2 clerks to travel to New York City along the way. So Dolly is a matchmaker, of course, and she is theoretically trying to set up Vandergelder with a potential bride-to-be, and his 2 young clerks have never really been out in the world or enjoyed life, and they decide that while the cat's away, the mice will play, and they go to New York as well, not actually necessarily realising that they will bump into him at some point. And when they're there, they meet 2 young women, and they hit it off, and they have a little adventure of their own. And a very large chunk of this film is set in a restaurant, and a lot more time than I expected is set in the restaurant, but it works. From start to finish, this film works. Apart from, as I said, a few things that I think they could have done in a bit more detail. I did have some questions that I wanted answered about maybe some background information. I think is more the narrative from point A to Z, perfect. But before that, I feel like there could have been some more character building, but it didn't really hinder anything. The restaurant scene particularly gave me a lot of happiness. There were some great performances there. Some surprises. I wouldn't go as far as saying there were twists in the narrative, but there were a few things here and there along the way that I hadn't actually expected. As a musical, the choreography is amazing. Every number has intricate choreography. I don't think there was a single number that didn't involve some kind of creative footwork. The costumes are impeccable. They are so stunning, particularly Dolly's. As for the music, it is obviously a very good soundtrack. There wasn't particularly anything that stood out to me as being amazing. Often when I watch a new musical, I will fall in love with at least one song. I will go and add it to my favourites on YouTube and watch the scene again and again. There wasn't anything like that stood out too much, but I did like It Takes a Woman. And Before the Parade Passes By, I thought Streisand's performance in that one, vocally, in terms of acting, just absolutely fantastic. I also liked Hello Dolly, the song. I kind of knew I would, but it's a beautiful, beautiful song. And I also loved the finale. The medley there was just beautiful. It really tied everything together, and I thought it was really gorgeous. The final few scenes were really triumphant and impressive, and I guess what I would have wanted. I'm not going to obviously say what happened, but there are some musicals that just kind of teeter out and you're not left feeling satisfied. But I felt satisfied at the end of this 2.5 hour journey. The set locations are amazing. Oscar-winning film, won Best Music, Best Sound, and Best Art Direction. It didn't win Best Picture or Best Costume. Definitely, I feel was definitely at least a very strong contender. It is stunning. It is so beautiful. It films a little bit in Waterfront Park in Garrison, New York. I've never been there. I'd love to go there now because it's stunning. Obviously, a lot of it was filmed at 20th Century Fox in LA. I'm glad I've finally seen it. I would happily watch it again. I would see it on... I'd like to see it on stage. There are some scenes that I hope they cut, as there are a few scenes that didn't drag so much, but I feel like if you're in an auditorium, there wouldn't really be much to bounce off of in terms of the emotions. It's something that wouldn't come across as well on stage. But for the most part, I'd love to see that choreography on stage. It really is beautiful. Streisand is just perfect as Dolly Levi. I understand why it's a well-loved film. Not my favourite musical. Absolutely not my favourite musical. But I'm confident in saying that it's pretty high up there.